Hey, welcome to the AAQEP National. Let me start this again. Sorry. Welcome to this session, National Accreditation through AAQEP, and I'm here to give you a quick update. Since my presentation at the TACTE in October, there are a few things that happened. With AQuip and love to provide that feedback and that update to you. And if you have any question, we're a small group. Please feel free to interrupt or put your questions in the chat or just signal, let me know. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and share some information about AQuip and then go from there. And as we just mentioned, I am Songdi Shu, and with me is AQuip's President and CEO, Dr. Mark Lissell Peterson. And thank you again for joining us here. We're excited to have you here. Okay. Here is a quick agenda of what we want to go through in terms of information today. We'll start with an introduction and overview of AQuip and talked a little bit about the standards and the update and talked a little bit about the process and the services that we offer to support the suspension of the continuous improvement and quality assurance. And then if Q&A, and obviously we can have the Q&A along the way again. Hey, so do you know AQuip has an MOA with the Tennessee Department of Education? Okay, yes. Yeah, we signed the MOA last October. We're so grateful for the collaboration and partnership with the Tennessee Department of Education, Alicia and Dr. And Jennifer. They're great to work with. So that AQuip right now is one of the options for national accreditation if you so choose. We love the opportunity to work with you. And AQuip is also CHIA recognized. CHIA stands for Council for Higher Education Accreditation. And we have been recognized since 2020, 2020. Yep. Okay. And so we're like many of you, we have a 7-year cycle with CHIA and we just submitted our kind of midterm report to them. So we're when we say we're kind of along the journey with you on this quality assurance journey, we really are because we're doing it ourselves too. So and we provide supports throughout the process. Okay, so our aim is not that you join and then we just kind of like, here are some guidance and go read it and do it and then come back. No, we actually want to walk the journey with you and we provide support along the way and we make sure that our staff is accessible all the time. So we want this to be a partnership between AQuip and the providers that we're working with. And at the end of the presentation, I will talk a little bit about the support activities and services we have. But I just want to mention here, those activities and services are not inclusive, are not just for AQuip members. Okay, we design these activities for professionals like you, like us, who are in the field of quality assurance and improvement. We want AQuip to be a home for this group of individuals, not just accreditation. Okay, so and that's how we design all the activities and our professional learning communities as well. Okay. So I know this is kind of, preach to the choir. You all know the value of accreditation. And in fact, you in Tennessee are required to have accreditation either through the state or through national entities. But just these are kind of what AQuip's values are as well, right? We want to provide a structure through it. The providers can have that structured review process. And through that, we can strengthen the programs. And we want to share these practices, things that we learned. For too long, things that we learned through accreditation process, it's kind of all it's only learned with a little group of people who are involved in the process, but we want to enlarge that circle, right? So far, AAQEP has published 2 books and many presentations to share that. And we actually, the end of last year, we established an editorial board. So we will have publications from our members and from others in the profession publish their learning quite often. I'm super excited about that. And we, like I said, AAQEP, we want to be an organization that promotes professional development and learning through participation. So we invite everyone to participate, to join us. Yeah. And we also believe in building a stronger stakeholder relationship through sharing information. And that's why, we sought to partner with the Department of Education, and we also, that's kind of on our end, but on the other end, at the provider end, we also strongly encourage, right, and require even to require the providers to involve their candidates, their graduates, the graduates, the employers, and other community partners to kind of be part of this quality assurance and improvement process. And that kind of talks about, improving programs by engaging stakeholders. And most importantly, we want to provide the opportunity for our subscribers, so members or those who use AAQEP accreditation, to be able to make the claim of quality through a kind of an unbiased assessment on the AAQEP side. So that's what we value in accreditation. When we talk about accreditation, or rather, when we talk about quality assurance or about quality, AAQEP's approach really is, this is a professional conversation, right? You're having a professional conversation with, most intimately, with your own team, right? Your stakeholders, and as well as with the AAQEP review team. Like, we are not coming in, the team is not coming in to make a judgment. Rather, they're coming in to have this conversation, to learn about how do you define quality within your context, right? And then how do you measure quality? How do you recognize that you are achieving the quality that you were aiming to have? And once you're there, how do you continue to increase that quality? Right? Continuous conversation around all these things. And while achieving higher quality, like what kind of new practices, what kind of innovation you're adopting, you're trying, right? One of the things that AAQEP encourages our members to do is to adapt, adopt, and abandon, right? We ask you to think about, okay, what can we do to be better? And if it doesn't work, is there anything that I can do to continue on that pathway, right? To think about what that means to you, and to kind of share that with the community that you're working with. And these next 2 slides has 8 principles, and these principles are originally designed as the AAQEP design principles, but now they're our operational principles. We try to adhere these principles as we run as an organization. And one is collaboration. We want to collaborate with all our partners and work together to improve quality of educator preparation. We believe that, um, and this really is tightly knit to the partnership, right? We believe that there should be the partnership should be strong between AAQEP, the state agency, and the provider, right? We don't want um, be the provider and AAQEP are doing something else that's not what Tennessee State Department of Education wants, right? Or we don't want to be in odd with the Tennessee Department of Education, right? So the partnership within these three parties, we find it is very important. We also, I think I already mentioned this. We also see that continuous innovation to update our practices. It's important, and the AAQEP system really, the AAQEP standards are designed to um, serve all types of providers, and there will be in a couple slides. I'll show you what type of providers AAQEP serves. Okay, here are four more design operational principles. And we believe that context is important because the context you work in will impact heavily the solutions that you use or the solutions you find to address issues that you face every day, right? So we find that understanding context it's important throughout the quality assurance process. In fact, I will talk a little bit about that in a minute. We value that so much that we make sure that on each of the review teams, we have someone called local practitioner. So that person is identified by our providers to help the rest of the team to understand the local context. And we try to run an efficient and frugal agency, right? If we can have virtual meetings, we try not to have in-person meetings that would cost extra to bring people on. For example, our accreditation commission meeting are run virtually so that everyone who is part of that, who should be part of that, who wants to be part of that, could be part of that. So, and then the last one is sharing. Well, I talked about how we value sharing the learning with others already. So, okay, so here is just a picture of where AAQEP is, where AAQEP members are, and you can see on the right-hand side, we work with some initial programs only, some advanced only programs, even doctoral programs. We work with traditional providers, alternative providers, community college, and school districts, right? We work with large institutions, small independent colleges, institutions. So yeah, we work with a lot of different organizations and entities. We know that when we were designing AAQEP system and AAQEP standards, we have already in mind that we want to be able to essentially hold everyone to the same standards, right, through the same process, but with the understanding of their context. So that's a little bit about like the background of AAQEP and things related to how we operate. But here is something that you might be more interested is what the standards look like. Okay, so as you see here is the latest version of the standards that were adopted by our board of directors in December of 2024. Okay, we had one set of standards that was adopted in 2018, but because of our commitment to continually to be CHIA recognized, we have to review our standards every 7 years, right? We are going through our own quality assurance and improvement process. So, a couple years ago, we started this work of renewing, revising our standards, and December of 2024 is when it was finalized. And you can see these standards there are 4 standards and organized in 2 ways, right? Standards 1 and 2 are about your candidate and completer performances, how they are doing as a teacher, right? And then 3 and 4 are about program practices. How is the provider as a whole doing to ensure that standards 1 and 2 are being achieved, right? And you can see if you look at kind of horizontally, standards 1 and 3, we call them foundational expectations because the aspects within standards 1 and 3 we believe are more foundational, meaning that those things that we're looking for, the field has already kind of come to a conclusion that these are the important components of, right, a good teacher or a good program. And we'll go into that a little bit more in detail. I'll show you what the standards and aspects are actually. But standards 2 and 4, we call them contextual expectations. Those are the areas that we as a field are still kind of struggling through. Maybe they're a little bit new to us, right? There's so many things that happened within the last few years that we're still trying to figure out what to do and what's going on. So we kind of put those areas in standards 2 and 4 so that we can kind of continue to grow and continue to improve. So we have 1 and 3 are solid foundations and 2 and 4 areas to grow. So we'll see, okay? Standard 1 is about completer foundational skills and knowledge. And you can see here is about their content knowledge, about their pedagogical skills, about how they have knowledge to work with diverse students, populations, how they know the impact of language development, acquisition, right? A couple things that are new to this 2025 standards are highlighted in red. New meaning they're being called out more explicitly than the last version of the 2018 standards. 1E is about working with students with disabilities, right? So last iteration, AAQEP did not call that out. AAQEP kind of counted as part of working with diverse student populations, but through the kind of standard renewal process, we've learned that people come to expect, hey, can you make that more explicit, right? And so, and then 1F is about current education technology tools and systems. That's also being called out more explicitly. And we actually work with ISTE on this one because, throughout COVID and right now with AI and everything, like we really learned from the field that this is an important piece of work that we are doing in preparing our educators. So we need to call that out more specifically. Okay, standard 2. This is more about, right, how they continue to grow, how we are still trying to figure out, hey, how do we kind of assess and identify these things, their practices on the job. But the one new part is about supporting mental well-being, including impact of trauma. And this is not that we're asking for the individual teacher to be an expert, but we are expecting that they are given tools and resources to know in what kind of circumstances they could help, or they could refer to other professionals right, enlist help from others. So we find that a very relevant and topics that people are asking. So standard three, again, is the foundational work for a good program, right? You need to have your recruitment and mission and support process um, settled in like well structured, right? You need to have a coherent curriculum developed. Um, and 3C is a new one, the effectiveness of evidence-based practices. And here it's not only asking we're not only asking, right, the educators are being taught to do this. We're actually talking about the providers, the professors and faculty members that actually need to be modeling these kind of practices. And so here is how we are calling it out more specifically. Okay. And then there are other pieces of standard three there. You can take a look. Here is about standard four, about program engagement and system improvement. This is really talking more about not just how you as a program benefit from your partnership with school districts or others in the community. This is talking about how they can benefit from their partnership with you, right? How are we as programs help support staffing needs, um, to address state workforce needs, to all that things. We specifically craft out 4G for making sure that programs are addressing specific requirements of the state as well here. Okay, so that's about the standards. Any questions so far? Okay, just remember you can use the chat or just stop just wave so I will stop and respond to any questions. But just now go into a little bit about AAQEP processes. I am confident that you will find some of the elements of the AAQEP processes to be familiar, right? For example, in the process, a self-study is required. Okay, we require everyone going through the process to write a self-study to address each of the standards and aspects, right? Tell us how you feel like you addressed all these aspects and show us the evidence and what have you learned from the evidence and what the next steps might be, right? So that should be a familiar piece. The other piece that should be familiar is the peer review process, right? So the AAQEP process is not that AAQEP staff come and review everything. No, we put together teams from other individuals who are in the field to come and do this review. And the review team's job really is to confirm and to gather information. They're not there to make any judgments or recommendations. On the decision side, you will also find it familiar that the accreditation, like I said, a decision is not made by the team, right? We have a panel of accreditation commissioners who will read all the reports and evidence that you submitted and the reports generated by the teams, right? Before they render a judgment. And when they do render the accreditation status judgment, it's either going to be a 7-year or a 5-year. And depending on the pathway you are taking, and I'll talk a little bit more about these two different pathways, but, and then maybe their potential to be shorter accreditation terms if there are issues they have identified that will cause concerns. Right. Okay, so here is a different way of just kind of a picture of looking through the timeline and the process, right? So everything is really centered around the site visit. Right? Before the site visit, there is going to be an off-site visit, and then before that off-site visit, you would need to turn in your self-study. You can either turn in 6 months or 9 months prior, but if you turn in a little bit earlier, 9 months prior, then it will give AAQEP an opportunity to do what we call a completeness check, just to make sure all the aspects are addressed. So the report, when it goes to the review team, they're not going to come back and say, hey, there is a section missing, right? And then before that, before you turn in the report, the 1 to 3 years prior to the site visit, there is also an optional activity, what we called a proposal, which is a process to, again, use the peer review process to look at your assessment system, right? If you need some help, or if you want to have some input and help to brainstorm, like, hey, I was wondering if I should use these assessments and to collect these informations and do this, then there is an optional process that you could take part of. After the site visit, now going to the very end, to last 2 points, right? After the site visit, we try to have a speedy convening for the accreditation commission to make decisions. Usually within the quarter, you would have your decisions, and that decision meeting is it's virtual. Okay, and after the decision, then annually you will turn in an annual report. So that should also be pretty standard. So here are the two different pathways. We have a 5-year initial accreditation and a 7-year accreditation. The differences between these two are who they're designed for, right? The 7-year accreditation is designed more for matured programs that have been kind of collecting data. They're ready, like they have everything together. And not to say that the initial accreditation is not for them either, but the 5-year accreditation really is designed for people who are either new to national accreditation or are transitioned from different accreditors, right? Or in the process, they're kind of in the process of revamping their system. And so they might not have as much data as they would like to go into the 7-year. But because 5-year doesn't require data, the initial accreditation, 5-year accreditation doesn't require data. What we require is a complete plan and how you're going, and then a complete set of assessment system, right? We want to know what you're thinking, how you're thinking, and what you're going to do. And then the 7-year accreditation is like, okay, you have the opportunity to implement all that and gather information. Then what's your analysis and what's your next steps? So that's the difference. And you can only do the 5-year accreditation once, and then you have to move to the 7-year because we do want to see how you implement all your plans and what the data is telling you. So, okay. So in these two different pathways, like I said, right, we ask your help to identify a local practitioner to be on the team so that the rest of the team members can learn from that local practitioner about the local context, about your programs, and about how you work with your partners, right? How you implement your programs. We do have specific guidelines on how to support you to know how to select those local practitioners. We try to keep the review team as small as possible so that we have very light footprint on campus. Again, the team do not make judgments or recommendations, and those are the jobs for the accreditation commissioners. And like I mentioned, the accreditation commission meeting is virtual. You are going to be invited with your team and whoever you want to invite. Right? AAQEP will also invite the team lead and the accreditation commissioners, so that this is not only just it's not just rendering decisions. Think about this. Think of this as another opportunity to have a conversation with the commissioners, with your team lead, and with your stakeholders and partners. And usually the commissioners will come together with questions so that they can, using those questions to kind of guide the conversation before they render the decisions. Okay. AAQEP really believes the power of engaging stakeholders, right? How you could learn so much when you engage and do so much more when you engage your stakeholders, right? And in a minute, we really want to make sure, specifically when you're gathering data, we want you to have use multiple measures with multiple perspectives. And so when we talked about multiple perspectives, we're talking about perspectives of your candidates, your graduates, their employers, and your partners. And so we find that it's very important. And your faculty members, sorry. Okay, and thinking about kind of the evidence requirements and priorities, right? In addition to that, multiple measurements with multiple perspectives, we want to make sure that you are cognizant of the quality of evidence. And this is not like we're asking you to have like an external third party to validate all your instruments, but we want you to make sure that we want to make sure that you have some kind of internal process to make sure that the instruments that are being used are reliable, are valid, are fair, and are trustworthy, right? So, and the good thing about having multiple measures is that a lot of times they can support each other in your claim of, yeah, this is reliable, this is valid, right? This is fair. And we put priorities on direct performance measures, right? We want to, these are the measures that candidates' performance are being observed directly, right? Seeing is believing. I think it's kind of the basis of this. But in addition to that, we also want to make sure that the providers to explore other possible evidence or data sources, right? Don't just stay there and look beyond. So some indirect or downstream measures that should be considered could be considered. Many of the information possibly from the Department of Education could be considered as indirect or downstream measures. And I know that Tennessee Department of Education has a lot of information that could be shared, that are being shared. So and then when you're kind of thinking about, okay, how do I organize the data, or right, how do I organize the tables? We ask our providers to disaggregate the data by license areas, by level, by location, if you have multiple campuses, and by mode. And in Tennessee, some of you might be also engaged in residency programs or apprenticeship programs. Then we'll ask you to kind of differentiate those information by those type of programs as well, so that we can see, quality across the board. Okay. Yeah. And then I think the last point is also very important, is that we ask you to, identify your measurements. You also let us know what's your performance expectations, what's the criteria of success, and why is that, right? And how are your candidates performing against your criteria of success? So, okay. So that's about the process and about, evidence we're looking for. Um, I just really want to say out loud here is that for AAQEP, the quality assurance and improvement work, it doesn't stop, right, when you complete a cycle, and you don't say like, oh, okay, I have now 3 years, I can hit pause and then I'll come back when I have to get ready to write the report. No, really, it should be this whole quality assurance and improvement process should be baked into your daily operation. So that as you're running the program, you're running that quality assurance and improvement system. Okay. And that's something that we really would relate we would re I'm sorry, we would really like to see. Okay. And then the other part we would really like to see is how do you use these kind of feedback you gathered, for the purpose of accreditation? How do you use that? How do you incorporate that into your long-term planning? How do you take your stakeholder input and make them into um, right, an improvement item? Okay, so there are a couple we talked a little bit about like the features that you would kind of be familiar with. Here are a couple of things that kind of AAQEP can created. One is our cohort. All the providers who join AAQEP in pursuit of national accreditation are put into cohorts, and the cohorts are organized by where they are in the cycle. So that you are in the group of you are in the learning community where everyone is kind of engaged in similar activities, right? If you're just kind of thinking about, oh, okay, what my assessments should be, there will be a group of people kind of in the same frame of mind, and you can share ideas, bounce ideas, you can brainstorm, you can provide suggestions, and expect people to do the same to you. We, over the last few years, I think we have achieved a learning community that people feel safe to ask questions and feel safe to not to be judged, right? So I really love, and this week it's our cohort week, so love to, yeah, I'm excited to see all my cohort people again. The other part is the proposal, and I kind of talked a little bit about the proposal, but really it's an opportunity to examine your assessment system, right? Through the process, many of our members have downsized their assessment system, so they focus on a few assessments that can provide a lot more information for the purpose of accreditation. And this is not to say other assessments, are kind of useless. I think we're here, it's just identifying what's appropriate for the purpose of accreditation, right? For the formative assessments, faculty members, professors are still using in the classroom to help candidates. Are they valuable? Absolutely. But are they so valuable that we want to share as one of the evidence for the accreditation visit? Maybe not, right? We're more looking for the key assessments that give us more comprehensive understanding of the candidate performance overall. Okay, and this is also the place where this is also a peer review process. Once we receive the proposal, we will pull a small team of two to go through this process with you, and you can have conversations, bounce ideas again, kind of just learning from your peers and work. Yeah. Hey, so as I mentioned, we really try to design this process to kind of so that we can walk along with our providers. And here are some activities that we have designed to provide that support. The monthly cohort I already talked about. The collaborative conversation are conversations organized by AAQEP, but topics chosen by our members, right? So 3 or 4 times a year, they come together, they let us know, here are some of the topics we want to talk about. So then we organize that. And then member quarterly is similar to collaborative conversations, but AAQEP organize and choose the topics and find speakers. Okay. So, we have been seeing a lot of needs to talk a little bit more about assessment systems so that I think last year we had like 2 or 3 conversations about this. Open forums we don't use it very often. When we call open forums, we invite all our members to join us together. The most recent one I would say probably I can call that an open forum is on the last day of January. We had an open forum to kind of talk about the 4 new aspects, how people are thinking about it, how people are trying to, imagine how to assess them, right? That kind of conversations we just had recently. And then the next one is webinars. We have 6 different webinars we run a couple times a year, and we record them so they can be accessed asynchronously. These webinars are what I called how-to webinars. We want to make sure that there is no mystery in how to do different things, how to write reports, and your energy should not be trying to figure out how to do this, but doing it. So we have not only these webinars, but for each of these, we also have an accompanying guide, so you can also read as well. But we have webinars for how to write the initial accreditation report, how to write 7-year quality assurance report, how to make documentations, site visit essentials, writing the annual report, and writing the proposal. So we're here to support our members. In addition to the activities I just talked about, they're kind of free of charge. They come with your membership fees. And here are some additional activity that comes with a discounted fees for members. Right? We have consultations, we have workshops, we have 2 in-person events every year, and then we have a lot of resources on our website. And the resources on the website, it's free, and you can find a lot of templates and guides and whatnot, examples even on our websites. But for our workshops, here are some of the topics that we talk about, right? These workshops are not necessarily focused on AAQEP. I think they are more focused on general practice. So how do you make a case for quality? How do you ensure data quality and equity, right? How do you use data? Things like that. So, and like I said, we do have 2 in-person events. Our next event coming up is on April 3rd and 4th, our Quality Assurance Symposium in Phoenix, Tempe, really. But so I want to invite you to join us. Again, this is not an AAQEP member only symposium or event. This is really to learn from others about their quality assurance practices. So, hey, and we have other professional learning events. You're invited to join us, so please feel free to check out these links. And then the last part is I want to invite you to become a reviewer, right? Many of our members have said that, and even Alicia at the beginning of the meeting when we were just chit-chatting, talk about being a reviewer is a good way of learning the process, getting into the trenches and learn to think from the other side. So please let us know, reach out and let us know if you're interested in doing this. Okay. And so That's the end of my presentation, and I know our time is coming up, but are there any questions?
I think a few had to jump off to go to another other sessions that started. Um, but I was going to say that the collaborative part, just speaking from experience, the sessions, the webinars have been so informative. Um, I've attended several of those just as a state liaison, trying to learn as much as possible, and they've been very helpful. It's very inclusive, and um, I know the session with Michigan, the collaborative with the assessment work that Michigan's doing, or the consortium there, um, was very informative and also led to some conversation that we had within the department. So those webinars have been exceptional. So thank you for those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there are no questions, I'm going to Mark, do you want to say something? Okay.
No, just want to say it's so good to be here with everyone. And if anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to correspond with folks. You can correspond with Sung or any of us, but I'll just drop my email in the chat.
And I'm going to stop recording now. So if you have any questions you want to pose and don't want to be recorded, maybe that's the case.